Hi, you're listening to the From Imposter to Empowered podcast. I'm your host, Jill Perrick, a life and success coach who specializes in helping working professionals and entrepreneurs overcome imposter syndrome. If you feel like you're not as smart, capable, or worthy as you actually are, and that someone is going to find you out, you've come to the right place. I use social and cognitive psychology, neurolinguistic programming, and somatic healing to take my clients from imposter to empowered so they can go after the success that they want and feel worthy of it too. Let's dig in. Hello, my fraud squad. Welcome back to the From Imposter to Empowered podcast. I'm your host, Jill Perrick, and as you are listening to this, I am on a beach in Mexico. I have been fully vaccinated. Hopefully at this point I had gotten my booster, and we are enjoying ourselves in Mexico, of course, keeping ourselves safe, and that is where I am this week. So if you're like, Jill, where are you on Instagram? I am taking another social media break. I am taking one for the holidays, and as you're listening to this, as I'm recording this, it is about a week before I'm taking a 2-week holiday break from social media entirely. And then I'm also going to be taking a break when we go to Mexico. So I just really needed to switch off completely because I am one of those people, and I have that ADHD brain that is constantly seeking dopamine, that even if I'm telling myself I'm not working, if I have access to my social media, I will be scrolling and I will be looking at things. So I know myself, and I know that that means I have to delete the app, log out of my account completely, and I'm going to enjoy it. So that is where I am in the world as you're listening to this. And today I wanted to talk to you about, first of all, I want to say that I have a new freebie available for you guys. It is a 15-day challenge called the Worthiness Challenge, and each day for 15 days, you get either a somatic journal prompt, and somatic means like we're moving energy and emotions in the body. So somatic is work with the body, and subconscious work with the mind. And as you guys know, I take my coaching in the way of subconscious and somatic work. That's how I do it to help my clients heal and overcome imposter syndrome and that feeling of unworthiness. So you either get a somatic journal prompt, or you get an EFT tapping sequence, or you get a meditation complete with breath work. So we are going to be recycling through those 3 things each day, and they're all going to have a theme and working towards a common goal. So it takes you on this 15-day worthiness journey, and it's really amazing, and you can get it for free. You can just go to the link in my show notes and sign up for that, and you will start getting the emails today, and then your challenge will start the next day that you have signed up. So that is something new. That is something that's hitting your screens. It already has been for about a month now when you're listening to this. So jump on that. There's already about 25 people inside the challenge, which is so exciting. So I'm so glad that they are loving it, and I'm sure you will as well. And additionally, I am taking on more one-to-one clients. So this is for the high-achieving neurodivergent woman who is either in a leadership role in her career, or you are an online business owner. And this is for you to feel like an expert, show up as an expert, like truly feel like one, and overcome that imposter syndrome and reduce those self-sabotaging, I'm not good enough spirals, the ones that just send you into a tailspin and then you don't get any work done, or you do show up and you feel like shit and you just feel like this is all for nothing. I hear you, I see you, and I help my clients reduce those by 50% or more. That is one of the many results that comes from working with me, is people feel like they have such a better handle on their thoughts and emotions. They're able to self-regulate and self-coach and get shit done and create the results that they want in their life and feel like an expert and feel worthy. So I have spots available for one-to-one coaching, as I said, so you can go to the link on my show notes and apply for that, or you can go onto my Instagram at YourCoachJill and send me a DM, and I will check it when I get back from vacay. So those are my little updates, and today I want to bring back something that I talked about a long time on the podcast, like long ago when it was the leading lady. I've changed my podcast like 3 times. At first it was the growth sequence, and let me just tell you, if you are a business owner, please don't get too too attached to any name or title, okay? Because you are going to be changing that shit all the time. And I was one of those people who would be like, what should I name my podcast? La la la. It doesn't fucking matter. Name it something, you'll change it later, more than likely, like just make a decision. And that is something that I've learned being an entrepreneur, is like I just get to make a decision and I can change it later if I want to, like really detach from thinking like you are making this life-changing decision, like the growth sequence. What the fuck is that? So anyways, it was, at first it was the growth sequence, and then it was the leading lady for a bit, where that's when I started talking about imposter syndrome. I was talking about like leadership, and it started to lead into imposter syndrome, and then I fully changed it to the From Imposter to Empowered podcast. And I did like all of those changes completely silently. Like I would just change it. And I get a lot of clients who are like, do I need to announce this and blah, blah, blah. You don't need to announce shit. You just have to start talking about it and start doing it. I get the drama behind it, but if you are legitimately making a decision for the future of your business, if you are finding clarity in your messaging, take that action, and it can be messy as fuck. And actually, this is a good segue into our topic today. So as I said very early on, when it was the leading lady, I was talking about imposter syndrome and the natural genius. And again, this is another term coined by Dr. Young, who wrote The Secrets of Successful Women. Again, I haven't looked at that title yet. I hope that's what it's called. But anyways, she coined the natural genius. And this is a version of feeling like an imposter. And this is essentially when you feel like you have to be good at everything immediately. And this is something that I find is very common in high achieving women, because you have the identity of being good at things and always having your shit together. I don't know about you, but I am also the oldest daughter in a family of 5, like with 3 children and 2 parents. I have an older brother, but I am the oldest daughter, and then I have a younger sister. And as being the oldest daughter, I really took on that identity of like having my shit together and being the organized one. Like whenever we do Christmas gifts for our parents, like I'm always the one that organizes it and all of that stuff, right? So I had an identity of having my shit together and being good at things. And the reality is there's a lot of things that I've done that I'm not good at, but I would pride myself on being good at the things that I was good at, such as school and academia and writing and stuff like that, right? And I was really able to thrive when I got into the job market, and I was able to climb it wasn't a corporate organization, it was a government organization, but I still climbed the ladder in terms of positions, and I was just a really good studier, and I had a lot of knowledge, and I would retain a lot of information. This was a part of my able to hyper focus on things because I have ADHD, right? So it seemed on the outside that I had my shit together and that I was really smart and really intelligent, but on the inside you feel very vulnerable and sensitive, and any bit of criticism can send you reeling, can just really throw you back. And at the bottom of that was the fact that I just didn't feel good enough, so I had to perform or achieve in order to feel like I was worthy of love or validation. And this means that I would usually stop if I was bad at something or if it didn't produce a productive outcome. I would usually be like, okay, this piece of art isn't going to look good. They're not going to hang it on the fridge. So why would I continue doing this? Or why would I continue to do an activity if it doesn't have a productive outcome? It's kind of like how when you're in sports in high school or public school, and then once you're done, you just stop doing them, because unless you're going to become a professional athlete, there's no reason for you to do that, right? But kids have the right idea with extracurriculars, is it's not about being the best or achieving. It's about having fun, exerting energy, doing something with moving your body and not necessarily always having to use your brain, nurturing your creativity, and again, having fun. But when you have an achievement complex and you have an identity of somebody who is always good at things, like you don't want to risk the fact that somebody would think that you're not good at something or would see that you're not capable or qualified or whatever story you tell yourself, right? And this, again, comes from worth based in achievement and productivity. So I began to learn that I could only do things as long as it was producing an outcome. So when I got into university and it took up so much of my time, like 24/7 of my fucking time, I learned that unless I was doing something that was going to produce an outcome like graduating or getting a good grade, like it wasn't worth my time because I literally had no time for anything else. That's what I would tell myself, right? And also, that was how I received love. I received love from my parents, more specifically from my dad, who would be like, all of the things that you're doing are reasons for me to either be proud of you or disappointed in you. And like, he didn't know any better. That was how he was raised as well. But it taught me that my worth was in the things that I did and the things that I achieved, right? So when we start to just think that this is normal, then I started going to working. And I really didn't nurture any hobbies at all. I was like, when somebody would be like, what do you enjoy doing for fun? I'd be like, I like reading. And that's so basic. Like, I'm like, I enjoy reading, which I do. And it is a hobby of mine, but it's because I actually read smut now. If you don't know what smut is, you can Google it. I'm not going to tell you. But I read smut, or I read just really terrible fucking teenage fiction novels, just because I want to, you know. It doesn't have to produce an outcome. And for years, especially after university, because I started my fucking business right out of university because I was because I was used to achieving so much, right? That I would only read books if they had a productive outcome, if they could help me with my business, if they could help me with content creation, you know? And it turned into me being like, I don't know who the fuck I am. I don't know what hobbies I have. And it's because there was always an excuse. There was always something that needed my attention more. And I think at the root of that, it was like, well, of course I'm going to work hard to graduate. Of course I'm going to work hard to make money. Of course I'm going to work hard to grow my business, because I saw the long-term benefit of that and how the results were going to help me long-term. But I think we forget that there are moments, there's life in between our achievements, and if we're not happy, the achievements won't matter. And happiness is in the little things, it's in the moments, it's how we treat ourselves, right? So I want you to listen to this and kind of do an inventory and be like, wait, do I know who I am? Am I a high achieving woman? Do I know who I am, and do I know what I like? Because it's definitely worth starting to investigate now. But let's get into like why this is such a problem for you in terms of being this type of person, that natural genius with that type of thinking, and your worth in achievement and productivity is your worth gets rocked when you do something new. So your new job where you don't know the ropes, or a new business, especially my business owners, like, you are throwing yourselves into the wolf's den when you start your business. And for a lot of people, this will hold them back 100%, like hold them back from even making the tiniest decision or uploading an Instagram post, is they don't know what they're doing. And you don't in the beginning. Nobody knows what they're doing their first day of any job. And the problem is when your worth is based in achievement, and when you're used to receiving love and validation and praise for the things that you're doing right and the things that you've achieved, it can feel like a big old fat disappointment, and you can feel like shit because when you're starting something new, you're not going to get that perfect feedback, you know? Like, you're probably going to get, you're doing a good job, you're doing your best, and you're kind of like, oh, I don't believe you, because it feels like shit, right? So whenever something new comes up, it can be really scary to step into that, and it can feel like everything is wrong and you're doing everything wrong because you're so used to feeling comfortable in doing things right and being the one that knows everything and, Yeah, so what this also does is it causes shame. So then it goes into shame because you internalize that you're failing, in quotations, because you're not actually failing. And then you isolate to not be found out. You don't say anything. You don't reach out. You spend time in your head. You probably say a lot of things to yourself, but never journal it out or verbalize it to anybody. And if you do, you kind of minimize it. You're kind of like, I just don't know what I'm doing, but it's okay. I'll figure it out. But like, you actually really feel like shit about it, right? So in order to rectify this, we want to look back. We want to look back because if you are somebody who is high achieving, you have achieved your way up until this point. It has worked for you to be hard on yourself. It has worked for you to fake it till you make it. You have all this evidence of you beating yourself up to make sure that you achieve. It's worked for you so far, right? But now you've gotten to the point of listening to this podcast or thinking, do I have imposter syndrome? Or maybe it's worth it exploring this worthiness wound, right? So now you're here. And yes, unfortunately, we are going to look back because the only reason, though, that I want you to look back, and I've talked about this before, is for objective analysis, right? So objective analysis, where did you learn this pattern of behavior? Where did you learn that, okay, you start something new, you feel like shit, you beat yourself up, you tell yourself you're failing. Where do you start to be like, okay, I've got this? Because at this point, you have worked through a lot of experiences where you were a beginner, and what we want to change is how you talk to yourself during that time. What we want to change is how you don't like yourself or even hate yourself, and how you speak to yourself during that process of you being new and figuring something out. Because the nicer you are to yourself and the way you speak to yourself will affect your overwhelm, your stress levels, your productivity. It will affect your future result, and it will affect your happiness long term. And that is always the goal. So when you notice this happening, if you're doing something new, even if it's as simple as working on a graphic in fucking Canva for the first time or something like that. I remember when I started my podcast and I had to edit it using Audacity on my Windows laptop, and I had to figure out how to upload it and do the feed link in SoundCloud so it would go to Apple Podcasts and all that shit. I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. I had to Google everything. It took me hours to figure it out, right? But I did. I figured it out. And it probably would have been a lot easier if I was nicer to myself during that time, right? And it probably would have taken me a less amount of time as well in terms of constantly putting it off and experiencing a lot of resistance to it if I would have had this approach. So first, let's look back about where did you learn that this pattern of behavior worked for you? Where did you even learn that your worth was in your achievements or your productivity? Who did you learn to go to when you achieve something so they would give you the love that you wanted? Like, not to get all Freudian on you, but if you have a father that is similar to mine, in terms of like just wanting that love and that attention and that validation, and just look at that. Like, how did you learn to receive that love and that validation, and where does it make sense? Like, you are allowed to look back at your past and tell yourself, oh, that's where I learned that. That's where that's from. And then I want you to remember that your experience, while 100% valid, doesn't have to be your continued story. Like, yes, you learned that, but somebody has grown up in a different way and learned something different, right? So it is entirely possible that even though that was your real experience, it doesn't have to be your continued story. So it can be a real thing of your past. It doesn't have to be the story of your future. Okay? So I just want to say that. And then I want to go into facts, not feelings, right? So it is factual that you are doing something new, and you entirely get to decide how that makes you feel. You get to decide if you're doing a bad job or a good job, right? You get to decide what you make it mean. And you guys hear me talk about that all the time in terms of what am I making this mean? And you starting something new is the neutral circumstance here. It is not fact that you're doing a bad job, right? That is your opinion. And it is a neutral circumstance, though, that you are doing something new and you get to decide what you make that mean. You can also let yourself be supported and ask questions. Like, this is another opportunity for you to go into what did you learn about accepting help and receiving help. And this is another strain of imposter syndrome in terms of, I forget what it's called. I think it's called like the superwoman or something like that, where like you thrive in being able to like do things all on your own. You know what I mean? So recognize your relationship to asking for help and recognize where you feel embarrassed to ask for help or ashamed. Like, I've really experienced this whenever I hire a coach, is I almost feel like embarrassed that I have problems that need to be coached on, but that's literally what I'm paying them for, right? Is to help me. And it doesn't help me to sit in my shame. It actually makes things worse. And I have to prove that to myself by actually saying the hard thing to my coaches instead of perpetuating the same pattern of behavior of sitting in my shame, and that's actually really holding me back, right? It's just comfortable to sit in my shame instead of actually reaching out and asking for help. And that fear or uncertainty only feels real to you because you're isolating in your shame. Like, you not being able to ask for help, or you thinking that it's true that you're doing a bad job and that nothing is going to work out for you. Like, you are only perpetuating that because you are not asking for help, because you're not verbalizing your feelings, because you are believing the stories that you're telling yourself that you need to have this all figured out. It needs to be easy right away because you're not immediately good at it. It's not worth it, or you shouldn't continue. And I want you to practice the thoughts of, my skills and knowledge are constantly being built upon, and I can take my time. And I think these are really good beliefs or thoughts to start with in terms of your skills and your knowledge are always being built upon. I'm always learning something new, whether that's in a coaching call with a client, or if I read something, or if I am doing something for the first time. Like, I'm always learning and always growing, and I always will be. That doesn't mean that I can't take action now. It just means that I can be kind to myself as I do this, and reminding myself when these thoughts come up of, you're not doing this right, be like, oh, I just started doing this. Like, I need to really give myself some compassion here because I literally just started doing this. And you can take your time. You can take your time. There is no rush. And the more you believe that, the more you allow yourself to experiment and try new things. And again, take your fucking time. Okay, so that is my take on the natural genius, and I want you to remember that you are doing an amazing job. And again, you are throwing yourself into the wolves when you are doing something new, especially if you have started a business, especially if you have gone into a new role, and that it's understandable why you would think that way if your worth has always been in your achievement and your productivity. But I also want you to take this opportunity to decide that your future can look different. And on the premise of the whole point of you having a business and for you living your life is to fulfill your purpose. And you can't do that if you hate yourself. You can't do that if you are mean to yourself, you know? Like, you can do it, but you're gonna have a bad time doing it. And you want to be happy. You want to feel good. You want to be happy. You want to have happy moments, and it is the bare fucking minimum to be nice to yourself. And the other part of this as well, as a reminder, is that hobbies and your identity and doing things that don't always have a productive outcome. If you are an online business owner, how you can do this is do something without documenting it. Just do it for something for you that's fun, that's something that you don't put on Instagram, you know, like it's just for you, and it just do not attach a productive outcome or result to it whatsoever. Explore that part of yourself, explore the part of you that is doing things that is just for themselves. And if this is hard, think about what you did as a kid that you enjoyed, and you can start there. Okay? So that's the episode for today. And as a reminder, I am taking on one-to-one coaching clients now, so you can go to the link in my show notes and apply for that, or send me a DM on Instagram at your coach Jill, and we will chat. Love you guys. I'll see you next week. Bye. Thanks for listening to the From Imposter to Empowered podcast. Head to the show notes to find out how you can take this work deeper with me in one-to-one coaching or in my lifetime group coaching program, The Worthy Woman Method. In the show notes, you'll also find a free 3-day challenge to start the process of overcoming your inner imposter. And once you're done with that, screenshot this episode and share it on Instagram, tagging me at Your Coach Jill so we can connect. See you next time.